Amen. This is one of those days where we just kind of want to take it in for a moment. Take in the beauty and the power and the meaning of this moment, this place, this time. As I look around today, indeed, it is beautiful when God's sons and daughters and siblings and neighbors and friends come together and worship together and sing together and praise together and be together. Indeed, it is a beautiful sight. And I wish you had the view that I had today, because you all look absolutely amazing and beautiful. And this is a day that I, for one, will remember the rest of my life. People coming together, praising and singing. It was about a month ago, on July 7th, that Roberta Ursay and her family had gone to the beach in Panama City Beach, Florida. They were having a great time. The kids were splashing in the waves, and she was keeping an eye on them, and she noticed that they were getting further and further and further out into the water. And then pretty soon, their shouts of laughter and joy were turning to shouts of cries and fears, because the riptide was pulling them further and further out. Well, being the mother that she was, her mother bear took over. And she went racing out there into the water, even though she could barely swim, to try to save her 8-year-old and 11-year-old sons. Her 68-year-old grandmother was also there with her, and that grandmother was not going to watch her daughter or her sons drown. So Grandma, 68 years old, went out there. In the meantime, there were some other bystanders who were seeing what was happening. They heard the cries, they heard the screams. And before long, there was 9 people caught in a riptide, nearing death. While all this was going on, Jessica Simmons was on the beach enjoying a dinner. And something in her spirit said, I'm not going to eat my dinner and watch 9 people drown. She knew that she couldn't save them herself. She knew that if she went out there by herself, the 9 would become 10. And if any other individual went out there, the 10 would become 11 and 12. But she knew in her spirit that if one hand joined another hand, then there was hope. So she called other beachgoers, complete strangers, to join her hand. And they formed a human chain from the beach all the way out into the danger zone. And hand touching hand, turned a danger zone and a death zone into a salvation zone. It took them an hour. But hand by hand, arms linked and spirits linked, everybody was saved. Everybody made it safely home. When people went to the beach that day, they probably didn't realize that they were going to save a life. 80 people together had salvation in their hands. Have you thought of the power of your hands today? Take a look at your hands right now. Do you know that your hands are created by a loving God who has placed amazing power into your hands today? Your hands today are saving hands. And even today, it may be that someone who you touch with your hands is going to be saved because they see love in you, and love is what they need today. Saving hands. Look at your hands. What else do you see in your hands today? You see your uniqueness. You see the lines. Maybe you see the calluses from your hard work. Your hands are not only saving hands, your hands are also unifying hands. How blessed and beautiful it is when God's beloveds come together. It is like a rainbow in the sky. It is like the view from the mountaintop. It is like hope upon hope. And that's why today is so important in this world of division. Two congregations coming together. Unity Fellowship Church DC and MCCDC, each with our unique styles and ways of being and our unique flares, coming together and saying, on this day, we are one. On this day, we are unified. Our hands are unifying hands. Hands that bring one person and another person and another person together. Together in God's glory and in God's power. This is the vision that God has for God's people. This is the vision of a safe place where we can come together and take a stand for wholeness in our world today. And I think there's something meaningful that 1 year ago today in Charlottesville, we saw that hands can be used for harm. And indeed, we saw that hands can be used for violence. Hands can be used to drive a car into a crowd. And today we want to remember those who were hurt and injured. We want to remember Heather Heyer today and the state troopers who lost their lives because hands can be used for harm. And hands can be used for God and for good. And that's our hands today. Today, I pray that we will use our hands to say, stop! No more violence. Stop! No more racism. Stop! We know who we are and no one's going to beat us down again. Stop! In the name of love. Stop in the name of life. Stop in the name of power. And speaking of power, do you know how strong your hands are today? Do you know how powerful your hands are today? There is power in your hands to offer protection and grace in the very presence of Spirit. Our hands can be used for good and our hands can be used for harm. And in the name of God, we use our hands for good today. Reverend Elder Nancy Wilson said that God has placed power in our hands to build a new world. And that is our call. Power in our hands to offer protection and support. Power in our hands to be there for one another. Sweet Honey in the Rock has a wonderful song called I Be Your Water. And it's a song that speaks to our hands together becoming the hands of God. Our hands today cannot be underestimated. Our hands indeed are the hands of God. So I invite you again to look at your hands and see the power in your hands. In fact, see God in your hands. See the divine in your hands. And now I invite you to close your eyes just for a moment as you feel the power in your hands and hear these words from Sweet Honey in the Rock. I woke up moaning in a crowded, sick place, surrounded by evil, protected by grace. There were these hands, hundreds of hands reaching for me. They knew exactly who and what I should be. And our hands say back, I be your shelter. I be your land. I be your everything. I be your friend. I be your water when you're thirsty and dry. Again, these hands. There were these hands reaching, beckoning me. There were these hands, our hands. They knew exactly who and what I should be. Then I heard whispers. Be still. Be still. Be still. From deep inside me, be still. Be still. Be still. I saw you standing. You reached me. Your hand reached me. Your hand reached my heart. I saw you standing. You reached me.